right. Mayor Quinton Law has a nice ring to it.
Thank you.
So thank you for being here. I was doing some research on you, and you're a lot of firsts. You know, first black mayor in Moorestown, New Jersey, and also the youngest mayor in New Jersey, the entire state of New Jersey, and also a third generation Morristonian.
Yes, sir.
That's incredible. There's so many questions I have for you, but the first thing I have for you is, how did you get involved in politics? Like, what made you want to go down this journey?
Yeah. Well, I got involved back in 2016. Uh, Donald Trump was elected president. I was going into college, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And I feel like there were a lot of people at that time that when you go into college, you're trying to find your passion, right? For me, my parents didn't go to college. They had me when they were seniors in high school. And I was kind of flying blind in some respects. I went to college. I was blessed to go to college to play football. I got a free education through that. But in many respects, I was operating as a first timer. This was a totally new experience for me, and I didn't really have anyone in my immediate circle that understood what the college experience was like. So going to college, studying economics, I quickly found out I went to a business school in Rhode Island, and all of my friends were finance bros, for lack of better words.
Okay.
And that just, no shame to the people that want to work on Wall Street or work in finance. It's just not what I want to do. And I quickly found that out when I was in college. So I decided to major in economics because I read a book, Dreams from My Father, by Barack Obama. And he was talking about how policy is one of the most direct ways that we can change the world around us. And he found out that law was how you could change the world. For me, I was inspired by that message. I grew up on Medicaid. I grew up with young parents that were always robbing Peter to pay Paul to make it happen for me. I wanted to change that. I wanted to make sure that these systems were more fair for people that were like me, that grew up with young parents, or systems provided equitable outcomes for people like me. When I started to look into those systems, what I realized quickly was that there are inequities. There are inequities in these systems. We just need to address them, and the way that they're addressed is through policy. So that led me to majoring economics because I wanted to understand the economy. I wanted to understand how our economy reacts to public policy, and then eventually led me on this path. And I was doing internships here and there, finding my way, and I ended up working on a presidential campaign in 2020. I was in New Hampshire, living in the attic of a 80-year-old woman. But, I was organizing in the community and learning the principles of what it means to organize, strategize, mobilize for a campaign. And that really sparked something in me. It sparked the idea that politics can do good. Government can do good, but it can only do good when we elect and empower the people that are going to prioritize people over politics. And what we have right now in our country are a lot of people that prioritize the politics over the people. So, I ran in 2021, which was, I cannot believe that it's been 5 years that I've been on council.
Yeah.
You might be able, this is a super high def cam. You might be able to see some of the grays that I've gotten in that time.
I can't tell.
But running in that time, I wanted to run because I believe that representation matters. In 350 years in my community in Moorestown, there was no one that looked like me that served on town council. No black person has ever served. The council at that time was all middle-aged. It just seemed like there was a void in representation. And of course, the entire country was talking about representation and what it meant to have black and brown folks in boardrooms, on local governments, leading organizations. And when I looked to my community, I saw that there was no one that represented me on that local town council. So I threw my hat in as a 23-year-old, betting on me, and we won. And really, here we are 5 years later. I've been doing a lot of thinking about, do I want to run again, And I decided to run again for re-election because I feel like as a 23-year-old Quinton, I believed that representation mattered, but I also never really saw myself being the mayor of Moorestown. You know, that was always like a far and away, like crazy thing to me. But I don't think any kid in Moorestown should have to grow up not seeing themselves in that position. So I hope that me being in this role now can light the path for other young Moorestonians and make them feel like, wow, this is something I can do too. It's not only reserved for adults in their 50s with a lot of money, which, to be honest, before 2021, that's what it was for. So I ran for council because I believe that representation matters. Why I'm running again is because I believe that we've accomplished so much great work here in Moorestown from 2021 to 2025. And I want to continue that work because we are making progress day in and day out. But in this age of political apathy, in this age of political distrust in government, we need more people that prioritize the people over politics. So I decided to run again because I believe that we need folks in politics that can restore that hope for everyday citizens. And I recognize I'm not the president of the United States, but if I can do my part as a local mayor in Moorestown, New Jersey, restoring the faith for people in my community in government, then I think that's a mission accomplished.
Wow, I mean, I'm not a resident of Moorestown, but you have my vote. Just want to let you know that. That was
Our doors are always open.
okay. Okay. I had a lot of questions. You actually kind of touched on a lot of the points that I was going to ask you about, but I just wanted to kind of take a step back. You know, Morristown, New Jersey, I think it's top three as far as like most wealthiest townships in Burlington County.
Yep.
And as you spoke to before, a lot of people in the rooms that you walk into don't look like yourself. Could you talk? Was there any type of like insecurity, any type of fear, because you're going in this room with people probably twice your age that don't look like you? Was there any type of like fear? Was there any type of like how were you received in those type of rooms?
Yeah. So for the record, I'm 29. I ran when I was 23. 99% of the rooms I walk in, I am the youngest person in that room by decades. Not by a couple of years, by literally over 10. And I've said this before, but sometimes, you know, I can't change what I look like. You walk into these rooms, people see you as a young person, and sometimes they just can't get past that. You know, and I give people credit. They've worked their entire lives. You know, I could see how sometimes you can look at a young person and be like, well, what do you know? You've only been around for 29 years. I've been around for 50. And there is experience that comes with that. But I feel like in this age of political apathy, distrust in government, what we need is more leaders that listen. And when I ran for office, I told folks, I'm like, look, I'm 23 years old. I can't hide that. You know, I work for a U.S. senator. I work for nonprofits. I write grants. I have experience. Please consider that. But I can't change what I look like. And I will never lie to you about what I know. But I'm smart enough to tell you what I don't know. And I believe that the best leaders in our society, in our country, in our communities are ones that listen, are ones that are project managers for the people that they represent. Not ones that say, get in front of the people and say, don't worry, everybody, I have the solution to every problem because I'm the smartest man in the room. I'm in a community with doctors, lawyers, business executives, people that have done very well for themselves throughout their country. I'm going to realize that, throughout their lives. I realize that I don't know everything, but what I can be is a representative for the people and bring their perspectives back to town hall. And that's what I see myself as, is a representative for the residents of my community to make sure that their perspectives are represented at town hall. And that's what I was elected to do. So sometimes you do run into some pushback, but we need to reframe our thinking in politics about finding that one all-knowing being that's going to save us, because that doesn't exist.
Right.
And if there's anybody out there saying that they're that one all-knowing being that's going to save you, they're lying.
You speak a lot about political apathy. Could you kind of like define that to people that may not know exactly what that means?
Yeah, let me ask you something. Have you ever heard anybody that says, why should I even vote? It doesn't matter anyway.
Too many times to count.
They're all the same.
Yeah.
They're all corrupt. They're all crooked. We all know people that operate in that space. And honestly, I don't blame them. They have things that they can point to be like, here's another politician telling me that things are going to get better when they have no plans or ambitions to actually change that for my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand why some people might be exhausted or apathetic about government. And I try to accept that, not take it personally, of course. But where I think our role is as local elected officials, our role is to find ways to rebuild that trust. And that's by doing the things that we say we're going to do. You know, and a lot of the times when you're looking at municipal budgets, we're in a budget season right now in Moorestown, costs are going up, skyrocketing. When costs are going up and budgets get tough, it's really easy to put the quality of life things to the side. You know, that park that's been there since 1980, but it looks fine. It's not broken. The slide isn't broken. It looks great from the street. But you're not talking to the mom that had to nurse her son's road rash because he rode down the slide, and it's from 1980s,
Right.
and gives any kid that rides down a rash. Right. You're not talking to the dad that takes his kids every day after school to that park, and it's the best part of their day every single day. Those tangible quality of life things that, you know, maybe from the street, the park looks fine. We don't need to improve it, but it's 30 years old. It's time to upgrade the park and make sure that the quality of life for residents is enjoyable for what they're paying for. These are taxpayers that are paying for the community to provide them with public safety, recreational programs, and in Moorestown, they expect a very high quality of life. So for me, I'm focused on delivering on the tangible things, the things that you can see, touch, and feel, because that's what's going to restore the faith in government. People start to lose faith when they go to the park that's from 1980, and they're like, what am I even paying for?
Right.
So as mayor, I've been laser focused on trying to highlight the things that are tangible, that you can see, that your family can use, and say, we're investing in those things, because we believe that as a resident of Moorestown, you should be able to raise your kid in this community safely, freely, and allow them to grow into a great human being that we're accustomed to raising in Moorestown. And as a local government, I believe it's on incumbent upon us to deliver those results for our residents.
That's powerful, man. And that you touch on a lot of things that most people that are apathetic, a lot of their concerns against local government. People promise the world but deliver nothing.
Yep.
And I like your perspective on focus on tangible things that people can see, like a park.
Yeah.
Even if you're not a Moorestown resident, even if you're just driving by or visiting someone that lives there, you can kind of see a change. Like
Yep.
if I have a family member that live there, we visit every Christmas, I notice that the park is different from last Christmas.
Yep. Exactly.
So I know you were elected January 2025, correct?
I was elected as mayor in January 2025. I've been on town council since January of 2021.
Excellent.
Yeah, I was actually sworn in January 6th, 2021.
Wow.
Yeah, when the insurrection happened.
Wow.
That was my first day as a council member in Moorestown, and I was working in the U.S. Senate at the time for Senator Cory Booker. Yeah. So it was a eventful day, I'll say, at the least.
Talk about a crash course.
Yeah.
So in your time as being mayor, what would you say that you're most proud of?
Wow, that's a great question. What I'd say I'm the most proud of in my time as mayor has been we're really ushering in a new generation of Moorestown. When Moorestown was founded, and for a very long time, it was very much our little town. It was siloed, and by design, it was designed to keep others out. And that reputation is reflected in outside communities when they think about Moorestown at times. And when I got elected to council in 2021, I was hyper-focused on trying to change that reputation, to make us known as a more inclusive community, a community that welcomes everyone, a community where it doesn't matter if you make $1,000 or $1 million, you are welcome and loved in Moorestown. And I'm proud to say that, even this morning, I was at an event and I had a resident come up to me saying, hey, you never met me before. You went to high school with my daughter. I just want to say that I'm proud of what this community has become. and I feel at home in this community. And when I bring family that might not be from here, I'm no longer trying to make excuses about why we're welcoming. I really believe that we're welcoming. So I'm proud that people in Moorestown feel like we've become a place for everybody. And the reality is, we've always had people from all walks of life. For me, I grew up to having parents that had me when they were seniors at Moorestown High School.
Oh.
They dropped out to take care of me. And from a very early age, they reminded me that, like, you know, you might be friends with Dr. Johnson's son, but Dr. Johnson isn't in your network. You're on Medicaid. You don't get to go to Dr. Johnson's office. I used to get sick, and I'd be like, well, why can't I just go to Dr. Johnson? He said he could help me. And my parents had to be like, that we can't afford that. And imagine, you know, I'm 29 now, but imagine being 25 and having to speak to your 6-year-old son, telling them, you're blessed to live in this town, but you can't afford everything that your classmates can afford. That's a tough conversation.
It is.
I don't have kids, but I imagine being in that position at this age. You know, when my parents were 29, they had a kid that was 9 years old. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So just being in that position, I can't imagine having a conversation with my son saying, no, you can't do these things because we don't have the income, or we don't have the we haven't curated the lifestyle for you to be able to do that. And my parents work incredibly hard to give me everything. They've sacrificed so much. My whole family did. And in growing up as a kid in Moorestown, growing up in that position, you never see yourself leading the town or being on town council, because you're just trying to make it to college. Like my parents didn't really have that experience, so they're like, you know, we're going to do everything we can to make sure you are going to college. Right. There wasn't any ifs, ands, or buts. Right. It's like, this is what you're doing. And growing up in that position really made me reflect on my childhood and made me realize that I don't want any other young person in Moorestown to not see themselves in this position. I want people to see me in this role and be like, I can do it too. And like I said, it shouldn't matter if you make $1 million or 1,000, if you live in Lenola or Laurel Creek. For those that are watching that know Moorestown, it's the west and east end of town. My goal is to make it that it doesn't matter. Your voice is represented and your voice is welcome at the table.
And when I think about your story, and I think about your upbringing, I just see a lot of full circle moments. And, you know, being raised by parents that had to drop out of high school, and, you know, being raised how you were raised and not having a Dr. Johnson as a father or a parent, I think that it gave you a very unique perspective and kind of broadened your perspective. So I think if you were raised in a more affluent background or privileged background, you may be, you know, ignorant to certain things of how people live. And by you being raised how you were raised and being able to go to Bryant University in Rhode Island on a football scholarship, you were kind of able to see the full gamut of like how life is. And it broadened your perspective so that you can speak to different walks of life. You can speak to different people. And I think that really helps kind of give you a lot of ability to talk to everyone. It gives you a lot of credibility as well. You can go to different rooms and talk to different people and speak their language and connect with them in different ways. And so it's just incredible to me that you were able to turn how some may perceive as a slight or how some may perceive as a disadvantage, you turn that to an advantage. And, you know, that just speaks to, like, you know, how blessed you are to be in this position. And that's just really inspiring.
Thank you. Well, let me be clear. Like, you know, I've had a ton of privileges. Just growing up in Moorestown, I'm incredibly privileged to be in that position. You know, it's not my life, as I always joke, and I'm like, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. My story is my story, but I recognize I've a ton of privilege, and that's from growing up in Moorestown and having some of these experiences. But I appreciate that, and I do carry that with me every day, because I feel like in this age of political distrust and political apathy, a lot of people are tired of politicians talking at them. They're tired of a politician that gets up in front of them and says, you know, I have a PhD, I went to Harvard, I'm smarter than all of you, and here's my plan. People don't want that anymore. Right. People want someone that can speak to their perspective and that actually understand what they're going through. and not just tries to sympathize with that piece. And I recognize, like, you know, my story isn't going to allow me to fully empathize with every single person that I come up and, you know, speak with. But what I try to always remember is that we are in an age of politics, of trust. How do we build trust? It's we show that we're human beings. I completely disavow this idea that we have to, like, completely elevate ourselves to win an election. And I've been trying, as mayor, I've been trying my best to be available, accessible, and transparent about what it takes to run a community. And, you know, sometimes it's not good news, right? We have a snowstorm that's incredibly tough to deal with. Some things are out of your control. You can't control how quickly the snow forms the ice, right? You can't control how much snow falls and how many DPW guys you have. We had that first snowstorm this year. We had the snow turned to ice immediately. I don't know if you remember, I don't know if you got sick, but there was a crazy flu going around at that point in time from the holidays to early January. We had multiple guys that were down sick. We had a car that shouldn't have been on the road during the travel ban crash into a DPW truck.
I remember that.
And we were in this position where we were down a couple guys, down trucks, and the community's like, hey, what the heck is going on? Are you going to pave the roads? I mean, not pave the roads. Are you going to, remove the road, remove the snow? Right. And in that moment, I'm thinking about, as mayor, okay, what can I do? I can't get into these trucks myself and start removing snow. But what I can do is over-communicate. What I can do is make sure that the community understands where we're at and what the plan is to make sure that we finish this snow removal operation. So for me, I do everything I can within my role to build that trust and transparency with the community. And that's by saying, hey, I'm not going to always give you great news. I can't promise you the world, but great leaders give you the honest news. And they say, this is how we're going to get through it. And from my experience, I've worked in the U.S. Senate. I've worked in local governments like the city of Camden. Now I'm at the American Cancer Society, where I'm their government relations director, and I handle policy that's coming through Trenton that's at the state level. What I've seen when you're navigating government is putting it all out there, being transparent, and over-communicating is how you retain the trust from the community.
I agree. And another thing that I'm noticing in your story that you're telling me is I can, and I'm a big proponent in, finding your power in certain situations. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to say things that you can do. It's very easy to look at things that aren't going your way and things that are out of your control.
Absolutely.
Right? But I believe that whatever situation happens, like the snowstorm, you can't control the weather. You can't control how quickly snow turns to ice. But what you said was that, what can I do? I can communicate.
Yeah.
So what you did was you found power in that situation to be able to try to rectify it and try to find a solution as best you can.
Absolutely.
And that's a message that anybody that's watching this, I hope that they gather, is that whatever's going around in your life, whatever circumstance you may have, try to find your power in that. Try to find what you can do to kind of overcome those situations. Mm-hmm. And that's really powerful.
Yeah. I always say that we're not going to solve the problems of the world by tomorrow. We're not going to fix Moorestown tomorrow. Mm-hmm. We can't let our inability to do everything stop us from doing something. Doing something is quite literally the only thing that's ever changed the world. Finding what we can do, finding what's within our power, is what leaders should be doing in our communities. But unfortunately, in government, you run into people very, very often that give you every single reason why we can't do something and why it's not possible. And as mayor, I've challenged our township staff. I've challenged my council members. And we have a great team in Moorestown. My council members are fantastic. But we challenge each other to think about how we can solve these problems. Because no one elected us to get to this seat and to look at the community and say, yeah, there's nothing I can do. Yeah, my hands are tied. Mm-hmm. You want to hear that from your mayor when you're like, hey, mayor, there's a problem. It's like, well, it's just hard. It's like, no, I elected you to solve those problems.
Exactly.
So recognizing that, yeah, we can't solve every problem, but what we can do is be responsive and give people the information they need to understand how we're making our decisions. And that is what brings trust and respect back into the situation. And you no longer have people that are saying, my town council doesn't represent me, or, they don't listen to me. And you can't say you're not listened to if you sit down across the table from the mayor or a council member and they give you a detailed explanation about what the nuances are of this situation. Right?
I agree. And you speak a lot about representation, and America is going to celebrate its 250th birthday, I believe.
Yep.
This coming July.
Yep.
But yet and still, people of color haven't been able to vote the entire time.
Yep.
And you're going into a situation that really wasn't designed for people of color to be successful or to matriculate. Can you speak to any type of like systematic or even personal barriers that you felt you had to come across on your journey to become mayor?
Absolutely. Being a young person, like I said, people see you and they ask like what you could have done in your life.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, don't look at my years of experience, look at the experience in my years and what I've done with the time that I've been given.
Hold on, can you say that one more time? That was a bar.
Thank you. I tell people, don't look at the experience in my years of experience. Let me start over. I tell people, don't look at the years of my experience. Look at the experience in my years and what I've done with the time that I've been given. And for me, as someone that now, I'm a government relations director for the American Cancer Society. I lead a team that works statewide. That's what I look for. I look for the doers. I look for the people that are willing to roll their sleeves up and have a plan. It's great if you have 30 years of experience running your own business. I'm not knocking that. I'm really not. But we all know someone who's been in their job for 30 years and isn't that good at their job. For me, it was my manager at Sky Zone when I was in high school. They were manager forever. They weren't the greatest. I won't say any names. But we all know people that have been in a role for a long time, and the years of experience they have doesn't necessarily, come over to the results that they're showing.
A lot of times it makes them complacent.
You said it, not me.
Yeah.
But what have they done in the time that they've been given? Have they been given 5, 10, 30 years? In that 30 years, what have they done? Have they yielded results? Have they spoke for their community? Have they made their organization a better place? Have they invested in making sure that there's people that can come up behind them that they can pass the baton to? That's what a real leader does. And that's why I'm running for re-election. I'm 29. I would love to have a family one day, God willing. Mm-hmm. But I always tell people that people are like, how do you have the time to do all this? You're everywhere. I don't have kids. I'm not married at this point. That's how I have the time.
Right.
And that's how young people have the advantage. But one day I do want to do that. One day I do want to have a family. So I'm not going to be able to do this forever. But as I try to show people that we're not meant to do this forever. You're not meant to be mayor forever. You're not meant to be on council forever. Take the time that you've been given and do something with it. That way you're not holding on to the position and saying, wait, I just need a couple more years to get something done. Mm-hmm. No, jump in, 2 feet in, and give your all to this. Because really, I've said this on other podcasts, like being mayor only pays $5,000 a year. For me, it's what you make it. Some mayors across our state, every mayor that puts their name on a ballot, I have 100% respect for. But I would be lying to you if I didn't say that there are mayors across our state and our country that get into the role and don't do much.
Right.
We need people that are going to prioritize the people that they work for over politics and understand that they're there to do a job. And that's to represent folks and to bring results, not point fingers, not fight with others, not pick partisan political battles. I always tell people there's no Democrat, Republican, or independent way to replace a water main. We have a 120-year-old water main that runs under our main street in Moorestown. And you know why we have that? It's because for many years, the local government didn't want to replace it because it's a big cost. They're going to have to raise taxes. The water's fine. We don't have breaks. Let's let it run through the concrete water main from 120 years ago because there is no problem right now. It's too big of an issue to tackle at this point in time.
Right.
Now you have me, the young mayor, coming in and saying, I want to start a family in this community. I don't want water main breaks happening every other week when I'm trying to cook dinner for my kids a couple years from now.
Right.
No, I don't pay taxes to have that as my quality of life. So for me as mayor, I'm like, no, we're not going to kick these large challenges down the road because they're just too big to handle right now. We're going to address them, and we're going to be honest with the community about why it's important that we address them now instead of continuing to kick the can and neglect our infrastructure that provides the most important utility to our town, which is our drinking water. Mm-hmm. And every time there's a water main break, whether it's 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, the DPW is out there working, trying to replace it. But for every minute that a family doesn't have water in Moorestown, is that dinner time? Is that, God knows what they can need it for in that moment. Mm-hmm. But it's about preventing those disruptions and giving people bang for their buck. And for me, I feel like it's unacceptable the fact that previous leadership in Moorestown, this is 10 years ago, 20 years ago, mm-hmm. decided not to fix this water main and kicked it down the line to people like me. I'm 29. The water main should have been replaced before I was born. And here I am having to convince my council members and my community that we have to make this investment into our infrastructure. So hopefully when my kids are born, they can have an infrastructure that's built for the 21st century.
I'm glad you said that, and you spoke about the issue with the water main and how your predecessors kind of kicked the can down the road, right? It's a big cost. Let the next mayor deal with it, In your time as mayor, what have you found to be your biggest challenge or your biggest obstacle so far?
The biggest obstacle is, that's a great question. I mean, there's so many. I mean, every day there's something that comes up where I'm like, God damn.
So how about this? Or about this? Take a trip to Hogwarts, right?
Yeah.
You have the Elder Wand, the most powerful wand in the world, so you can basically change whatever you want. All right. So we give you this wand, and for one day you have it for 24 hours. Mm-hmm. What's one thing that you would wand away? What's one thing that you would change?
One thing I would change is I would look at our main street. We have 3 commercial areas in town. We have more than that, but 3 like main districts. Mm-hmm. There's our downtown Main Street. Have you been to Moorestown's Main Street?
Yep.
Then there's our Moorestown Mall, which I'm sure you've been to the mall.
Of course.
Then we have our Lenola Town Center. If I could wave a wand, I would make all 3 of those commercial districts bustling. We have, excuse me. I'm just gonna wait for a second to let that kind of go. We have 3 commercial districts: our Main Street, our mall, and our Lenola Town Center. If I could wave a magic wand, I would do everything I can to revitalize all 3 of those districts. We've done a great job at bringing our Main Street back to life. It's almost fully occupied, no vacancies. We have, a few vacancies here and there, but we have some really exciting things that could be replacing them. Mm-hmm. We have a ton of great restaurants, amazing coffee shops. We have the only French press coffee shop in South Jersey. It's huge and popular online. I mean, it's got a cult following that it's called French Press right on Main Street. And we've done a lot to make Main Street lively again. However, we need to do more work at our mall and our Lenola Town Center, which is on the west end of our town where I bought my first home. And that investment would bring more what they call ratables to our town, which brings in more tax dollars for the community. So we have to levy less taxes on the residents. But what it also does is bring more people, foot traffic, life to our communities. If you go to Moorestown right now on a Saturday morning, if you were on Main Street this morning, it would be bustling. Every coffee shop would be filled. Every cafe, you'd probably wait 10 to 25 minutes for a seat. Mm-hmm. We have the breakfast and lunch game on lock, and we are growing every single day. But that nightlife, we lose residents that go to Philadelphia. I love my mayors in Collingswood and Haddonfield. They have a beautiful, beautiful Main Street. I would love to be at a point one day when we have people coming to Moorestown for that first date dinner, that special occasion for mom and dad where they just want to have, you know, a nice seafood dinner or steak dinner and a cocktail. You know, building that experience in Moorestown so people don't have to go to Philadelphia or other communities to find that is very important to me. Because one thing that I've seen as mayor is we have young families moving into Moorestown from the cities. These are, you know, folks that work in the medical systems. Maybe they work in finance in New York City, and they're looking to buy a bigger home for their family. And maybe they have a remote work schedule that allows them the flexibility. But they also expect the liveliness of their community. They want to be able to go to their downtown Main Street and grab, you know, a nice dinner and a glass of wine. Right now in Moorestown, we don't have that, but we're building towards it. We actually have the first educational microbrewery in the state of New Jersey coming to our Main Street in our community house. It'll be a 7-day brewery, a tasting room, so a normal brewery. But on the side, there's classrooms for students at Rowan College of Burlington County that want to get their associates in brewery manufacturing. Oh, wow. So that's how we can do public-private partnerships to make our downtown commercial districts more lively and inviting to the entire community. So that would be my one thing if I could do is to snap my fingers and make those 3 commercial districts thriving. Do you know about the theme park that's supposed to come to our mall?
No. Please talk about that.
Yeah, so we have a park, it's called Parkies. It's supposed to be coming to our mall at the old Lord and Taylor site. So it's going to be in the department store inside. It's an indoor theme park, multi-level go-kart tracks, axe throwing, 18 holes of indoor putt-putt, duck pin bowling, speakeasy bar, food, rooftop access with a music venue, boardwalk games. It's really like a Dave & Buster's taken to the whole next level. And we're really excited about that. They plan on being fully built out by the end of this year, maybe early 2027. And we're really excited about that. That's going to liven up our mall and bring more folks to the mall because I'm not sure if you know this, but the entity that owns Moorestown Mall also owns Cherry Hill Mall. Mm-hmm. Yep. So they have a financial interest in one doing better than the other in a way. You know, they don't want 2 malls competing with each other. You know what I mean? Right. So what we've done is because I love to shop at the Cherry Hill Mall too. I think it's great on retail. Mm-hmm. We're trying to make the Moorestown Mall great on experiences. The place that you can go for dinner, place that you can go to see a movie, place that you can go if you want to go to the amusement park and ride some rides or go-karts. That's where we think our niche is in the future of Moorestown. So those are that's a very long-winded answer to what I believe is down the road in the future of our community. But if I can make it happen immediately, that's what I would choose to do.
And, you know, you speak to your age, and I also had Burlington County Commissioner Tyler Burrell in here earlier.
Oh, yeah. I love Tyler.
Yeah, he was the youngest elected county official in Delran history.
Yeah.
At like 19, I think. And what I find is that it's almost like a changing of the guard. You know, you with your youth, you have a unique perspective of being able to connect with the next generation. Mm-hmm. Which is really, really important. I also work a nonprofit in Philly. Okay. Philadelphia City Rowing. We teach kids how to row in the Schuylkill River. Yep. Completely free for middle school and high school kids.
That's awesome.
And then I go around to different schools and I kind of talk about them, try to get more kids of color involved in the sport, which traditionally would have been like an affluent sport. Yeah. But I truly believe in giving back to the next generation because they're the future. Yep. They're what the world's going to look like in the future. So it's important to kind of like extend that hand downward.
Yes, sir.
And, you know, your perspective about revitalizing the community. I've been through Main Street in Moorestown. It's a very nice, very quaint town. I almost feel like I'm in a time machine when I drive down there. And it's great, but at like 6 o'clock at night when it's dark, the whole town shuts down. Yep. But your perspective about revitalizing that, and because you realize that there's people from New York that's kind of coming down and from all over. And right outside, it's still pretty close to Philly, too, as well.
25 minutes.
Yeah, if that, right? Yeah. So, you know, having that perspective about kind of making it a little more youthful, I think will definitely drive more residents within the community and give it a different feel, a different perspective. And I really like what you said about kind of making sort of a contrast between Moorestown Mall and Cherry Hill Mall. Yeah. Well, as far as like having an experience, because there's already a movie theater there.
Yep.
There's a Planet Fitness there already in the mall.
Yep.
You have the hospital that's really connected to the mall as well
Yep.
too. So turning that more into an experience type mall is great because all over because of Amazon and like online shopping, malls haven't been what they used to be.
Yeah.
So having that perspective of turning it into more of an experience, I think is a really cool idea. I'm excited for it.
Thank you. You know, a lot of it's about being willing to do things that haven't been done before.
Yeah.
But we also don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? We can say, hey, what do we see around the country where most malls are dying? But there are a few bright spots, malls that are doing very well comparatively.
Mm-hmm.
The Cherry Hill Mall is one of them. They do great on retail. They're probably one of the best malls in the region for retail shopping. And their sales reflect that. Being a leader of the community, it would be it would be it wouldn't behoove me to chase that and what malls used to be and try to make us into something that we just aren't anymore. So a lot of what we're doing, specifically at the Moorestown Mall, is trying to chart the path of the malls of the future and what is bringing people out. And to be honest, what's bringing people out are those experiences.
Yeah.
Are the night out with the family doing some bowling or some axe throwing with the boys. You know what I mean? That's what gets people out their houses nowadays.
Yep.
So let's meet people where they are and stop trying to force this like 1990s solution on government and commercial development. That's just not the way anymore. So I appreciate what you said. And I'm going to continue to kind of carry that with me as we do negotiate with Preet, who owns the Moorestown Mall and the Cherry Hill Mall. But as we think and brainstorm about what the mall needs, I'm going to continue to try to push for those innovative things that we're seeing around the country that shopping centers are doing to draw people into their area. Because that's really what it is. It's about getting people there and then allowing them the opportunity to utilize the other things that you're doing. So there's many malls that they now do that with like a Target, or they do that with a major shopping like supermarket, and they call it the anchor. That's the anchor, and then they'll dress up the anchor with a Bath and Body Works, with a Chick-fil-A, with a Starbucks. So the idea is you're going to the anchor, but you can get pulled in a bunch of different directions by doing other things. We're thinking about the mall as having multiple anchors in the movie theater and the theme park. In some of the restaurant shopping that's there. And then there's also pickleball. We opened up a pickleball club that's right next to the mall, not on the property, but right there. There's all of these things that bring people there, and then they can start spending their money. And, of course, that helps the ratables and helps us ultimately in our budget in Moorestown.
Wow, that's great, man. Yeah, that's awesome. So we talked about waving the magic wand and changing something immediately.
Yeah.
You're running for re-election. As you spoke to before, you don't anticipate this being a lifelong position.
Yeah.
There is going to be an end to your term. It's going to be finite. But with that being said, and I know you don't know what the future looks like, but if you could envision the next 5 to 10 years, or at least at maybe the end of your term, what would be the ultimate goal of your term? Like, what would you be able to say? Like, this is what we've done in my time here. This is my stamp. This is my signature. This is how I can mark my time as mayor.
Yeah, so one thing that we've done is every 10 years, a town has to renew their affordable housing obligation. In Moorestown, before 2021, we spent multiple decades not building a unit of affordable housing, and honestly, doing everything we can not to build a unit of affordable housing. One thing that a lot of people know about me is growing up with young parents. Sometimes parents separate, many parents do, mine did. It was affordable housing that kept my family in Moorestown when my parents separated and allowed me and my siblings, I'm the oldest of 5, to go and continue to attend Moorestown schools. I'm incredibly proud that we have taken Moorestown, in my opinion, from a community that did everything it could to block affordable housing at one point in time to a community that now understands our constitutional obligation in the state of New Jersey to provide accessible affordable housing, and is focused on actually delivering that for residents. And as someone who affordable housing allowed me to stay in this community, I recognize that there's an importance to expanding that access and making sure that it is available. We are in a housing crisis here in our country. So for me, I remember when I first got elected, someone told me, like, be careful about affordable housing. You'll lose an election if you advocate too much for it. And at the time, I was like, wow, is that where our community is at? But like I told you when we first started talking, I'm smart enough to know that I don't know everything. So in that moment, I was like, okay, maybe there's something that I don't fully understand at this moment. But now that I've been on council for 5 years, I feel like we've made the case to the community about why this needs to be done. And the Supreme Court has actually ruled that this is the law of the land. There were 28 towns that tried to sue against the affordable housing law, and they failed over and over again. What people aren't talking about is the money it takes to do those lawsuits. That's taxpayer dollars. That's not like coming out of some person's pocket. That's coming from the residents of those communities that are paying to fight the state mandated affordable housing obligation because they don't want to build it in their towns. They believe, and this is in the lawsuit, they believe that all of the affordable housing obligations should go to the urban areas in our state. So, as you're a realtor, we're in a real estate office. I'm sure you understand this and understand kind of like the nuances. But from my perspective, I'm proud that we've taken a step in our community where we've, instead of just trying to do the easy political thing and say, we don't want it either, we're with you, saying, no, this is what we have to do, because if we don't do it, we can end up in a very sticky situation where we hand over the control of our affordable housing plan to developers that just want to make as much money as they can. And that's not what's best for Moorestown. If we have you ever heard of something called the Builder's Remedy lawsuit?
No.
So if a town fights their affordable housing obligation, they can get sued under a Builder's Remedy lawsuit. And what the state will say is saying, hey, Moorestown, we gave you this number for arbitrary reasons. Say it's 200. You didn't want to build 200 affordable units. So what we're going to do is a realtor, or not a realtor, or a developer will see that and say, okay, I'm going to submit a plan to build 200 units. It might be 400 unit development, but we have 200 affordable units in that development, 200 market rate, and it's going to be 8 stories tall and, in some field in Moorestown. Everyone in Moorestown is going to be like, we don't want a 10-story, 8 to 10-story development. That doesn't look like Moorestown. That doesn't feel like Moorestown. That's not going to be successful here in our community. Stop it. But the court's going to be like, no. Then the developer is going to sue Moorestown and say, you guys, we're trying to meet your affordable housing obligation. You can't block us from doing this. And then the court's going to side with the developer because they're going to say, Moorestown, you had the chance to meet your obligation. You instead chose to fight us. And now we're going to side with the developer in a Builder's Remedy lawsuit because we're going to allow the developer to remedy your housing obligation.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that was possible.
Well, I always tell people, I'm like, do you want to fight this and then lose control of the housing plan? I feel like the most irresponsible thing I could do as mayor is lose control of our housing plan to a developer that has no connection to this community or the state.
So, and speaking to that, you're a third-generation Moorestonian. Did I say that correct? Moorestonian?
Yes.
Awesome. Great. You're a third-generation Moorestonian, and as I said before, Moorestown, New Jersey is probably top 3, one of the top 3 most wealthiest townships.
I usually say top 2 and not 2, but that's okay.
I'll try to be humble about it, but I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. A lot of like athletes.
I'm biased,
A lot of athletes that play in Philadelphia for the Sixers, the Phillies, Eagles, they live in Moorestown.
Yes.
A lot of nice homes, a lot of $1 million homes. And so these people that have been there, they're used to a certain way of living. And so you speak about affordable living and, affordable housing, creating these new developments. It's going to bring more people into Moorestown, kind of help revitalize those areas you were talking about. What would you say to those people that live there for, more generations than you, that are used to a certain type of living? They like the quiet life. They like how the city is kind of structured. They're going to fight that. What would you say to them?
I would say that the alternative, like if we went down the road and lost the Builder's Remedy lawsuit and lose control of our housing plan, that alternative is how we get something that really doesn't mesh well with Morristown. At this point in time, when we retain control, we have the opportunity to determine how these developments look, how they're spread out, how dense they are, and how what recreational opportunities they have, what transportation opportunities they have. So I tell folks, look at our downtown. If you drove through downtown Morristown, I'm sure you wouldn't know that downtown Morristown, we have over 500 affordable housing units.
No, I wouldn't know that.
And you know why you don't know it? It's because affordable housing was done right in our downtown Morristown. You shouldn't be able to drive past a development in town and say, that's an affordable development.
That's a good point.
You shouldn't be able to do that. That's not how it's done correctly in a community. So what I would say is we need to focus on how we can do it right to ensure that the new residents that are coming into our community feel welcome and not feel othered. And let's not do it in a way where folks can drive around town and say, that's the affordable development. You know, that's where people with lesser resources live. That's unacceptable to me. And that doesn't create an inclusive community. And if we lose these builder remedy lawsuits, those developers, they don't care about inclusive communities. They don't care about the success of the community. They care about the bottom line.
I'm glad you said that, because there's a connotation with affordable housing that you should, like, most people think that, all right, the affordable housing are people that can't afford certain things. They live in a certain, they're a certain type of people. And I'm glad you said that, because I didn't even know that. Driving down Main Street, I didn't even know that there was affordable housing units there.
Hundreds of units.
So yeah, I didn't even know that. So I'm glad you said that. That's great. Yeah. And so after you leave here, you're gonna go in a time machine, right? You're gonna drive back maybe 10, 15 years to Rhode Island, which, I'll be honest with you, Rhode Island is kind of like Montana. It was like one of those places, like, you see it on a map, but you're not really sure it exists because you don't know anybody from there.
Yeah.
At least I don't.
Yeah.
So I met somebody that actually, so it does exist. You went to college there.
It's there. I promise.
So is it cold up there, like in the wintertime?
Oh my gosh, man, it is freezing.
I bet.
It is freezing.
Yeah. So you go up there around this time of year. You're about to finish your freshman year of Bryant University. You still playing football at that time?
Yeah, I played football 4 years.
What position did you play?
I played defensive back. I started as a corner and I played safety. But usually I joke with people that was about 25 pounds ago. So, that was people usually like, oh, you played linebacker or
That's
something?
what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, no. I was, that was, like I said, 25 pounds ago. And, I'd like to say I'm still, quick. I'm still on my feet a little bit.
Okay.
But in all seriousness, yeah, I played defensive back.
Okay. So you drive up there, spring season, you just finished spring practice, I'm assuming. You meet your younger self, right? So you come up to them with your blazer on, Mayor you, meeting your younger self. What would you say to younger Quinton?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Younger Quinton would never expect themselves to be in this position today. You familiar with the term imposter syndrome?
Yes.
I deal with imposter syndrome every day. You're in these rooms, you're meeting people, senators, governors, business executives, presidents of hospitals, and you're wondering, like, what has qualified me to be in this moment? But one thing that I would have told Quinton in college, I would say, like, don't ever lose faith, man. Like, you might not know where you want to be right now, but you know what you care about. You know what your values are. And Quinton in college, I remember reading that book I was telling you about, Dreams from My Father, and deciding that there were values that mattered to me. Equity mattered to me. The fact that you could go to a public school in one town and your likeliness of going to a 4-year school is a 98%. But if you were born in a different zip code, that percentage goes down 27, just notwithstanding any other factors, just the fact that you were born in that zip code, the percentage goes down. That unfairness was something that I wrestled with for so long, but I didn't really understand myself. And I'll tell you a story. I had a bad knee injury when I was in college. Are you a basketball fan?
Yep.
So, Derrick Rose's knee injury, he got well, multiple, right? But he had a microfracture surgery that was similar to the same injury that Chris Bosh and Tracy McGrady had, that all like ended their careers. D Rose, thankfully enough, came back. He wasn't the same though, obviously.
Yeah.
I had microfracture surgery in my knee senior year of college. I had multiple college scholarships. Things were going great. I hurt my knee my first game of my senior year and never played down a football after that. Thank God I was blessed enough to continue to maintain some of the one of the scholarships that I had. I lost every other one because people didn't want to touch me with a 10-foot pole with that injury. That recovery, because due to the nature of the injury, that recovery is very intensive. Like you're in a continuous progressive motion machine for 6 hours a day, moving your knee up and down to make sure that it doesn't stiffen up and you could get the scar tissue out of there. You can't walk, put pressure on your knee for 10 weeks. So I was in a wheelchair or on crutches for 10 weeks. I gained an unbelievable amount of weight. And it was jarring to really understand what was going on, because I was like, my ACL isn't torn. I don't have, like, I can walk. Why are you telling me that this is what my recovery is going to look like? But one thing I found out during that process is how people on Medicaid get lesser care. So I told you I grew up on Medicaid, New Jersey Family Care, and I was told that a part of my recovery is running on an underwater treadmill. And if I could, to do it 5 days a week. Now, I live in Moorestown. From my back window, I could see a physical therapy facility that has an underwater treadmill. I could see it, like literally like 30-second walk. My insurance wouldn't cover that. What they would only cover is me getting 1 day a week on the underwater treadmill in Burlington City, which is about 30 minutes from Moorestown. And I couldn't drive because it was my right knee. My parents work 9 to 5. I'm watching my siblings, oldest of 5. It wasn't feasible for me to drive to Burlington City. I wasn't able to do it during the day because I had school. I couldn't do it right after school because I didn't have a ride.
Right.
So now I'm at this point where I'm like a senior in high school. I'm supposed to go to college on a football scholarship, but my recovery is kind of uncertain how long it's going to take. They were telling me if I can't run on a treadmill every day underwater, it's probably going to take a little longer than a year to get back than expected. So in that moment, I was like, holy cow, if I had regular insurance, I could go to Stride. I could go to the place right behind my house.
Right.
But the fact that I'm on Medicaid, I can't do that. And they're only saying they'll pay for 1 day a week. That is a prime example of what it means when people that have less, people that are on Medicaid are getting a lesser standard of care compared to those that don't.
You spoke about, and I appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability speaking about imposter syndrome. I feel like a lot of people, like myself, I grew up in a single-parent household. We didn't even have a car growing up, but I was able to go to college. I was able to get my master's. Now I'm working as a director of programming in a nonprofit, also in my real estate license. And I often, see how far I came, and I have that same feeling that you have. But one thing I realize is that as a minority, you don't just represent yourself, and I think that's a superpower for you. It means that a lot of people can see themselves in you.
Yes, sir.
And so whenever you do have those feelings, I just want you to think about that you're not just representing Quinton, you're representing, the younger Quinton that's kind of like trying to find their way or not too sure if they can even accomplish things in their life that they dream about. They look at you and they can see that.
Yeah.
So it's not, you may have those thoughts, but you're in those rooms for a reason.
Yes, sir.
Your experience in high school gave you that perspective about how the healthcare system works so that you can advocate for those people that don't have a voice when you're in those rooms.
Absolutely.
That's why you're in those rooms. So if you ever have those imposter thoughts again, remember that.
Thank you.
Your trials and your tribulations propelled you to be in that situation. The failure gave you momentum to rise even higher. And so I just thank you for being here. I thank you for sharing your story. I can't wait to see what you do in the future.
Thank you.
I want to take a picture, print it out, and have you sign it. I know it's going to be worth money one day.
Oh man, that's crazy, but I appreciate it. Listen, yeah. What I'll say is I had this screenshot. I just turned 29 a couple of weeks ago, and I found this screenshot in my phone from 2020 of a tweet from Naomi Osaka. You know her, she plays tennis.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something along the lines of every time I've run into challenges in my life, I remember that my ancestors' blood runs through my veins, and that reminds me that I can't lose. And it just means so much to me because I know that there's people that came before me in my family, but also just at larger in my community. There's so many people in my life that have sacrificed to see me succeed. So I guess if I could talk to young Quinton, what I would tell him is to remember that this is only just the beginning and to never stray away from the person that you are.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do believe that me being in this role, you can no, I don't believe that anyone can sit down with me and have a conversation about my community and leave and say that this guy doesn't care about Moorestown. This community has given me everything. And just to play a small role in shaping the future of it is an honor of a lifetime. But if I could have that time machine, I would love to see Quinton's face when I told them, hey, man, you became the first black mayor of Moorestown. You know that? Because as a freshman in college, I remember sitting in one of those classrooms being like, I might not be smart enough to be here. And maybe it's right. Maybe that's right because my parents didn't go to college. They don't have that experience. Maybe I'm not meant to be here. And that was only because I was nervous. And when you're nervous and when you have imposter syndrome, you find every reason not to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I felt when I decided to run for office. I was like, I'm 23. I'm black. No one that's ever looked like me has ever won a seat on town council. I'm going to embarrass myself by putting my name on that ballot. But seeing the community not only vote for me once, but twice, and maybe even a third time this November, is giving me a whole level of life that I would never expected. So to be here sitting with you today, I could tell you that 5 years ago, I didn't think I was going to be here. 10 years ago, I would have said I bet my life savings I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
But it goes to show how life really puts you on these full circle paths. Yeah. And you're in these rooms because you're supposed to be. So that's why I would tell Quinton to keep the faith and realize that your potential is much bigger than what you've ever imagined. And there's a lot of people that look like me, look like us, that don't see that in themselves, and they let their imposter syndrome stop them from doing something that's truly great.
100%. 100%. That's really why I wanted you on here to kind of share that story, and to be what you needed growing up, because there's people out there that kind of have those same feelings. I grew up in North Philly. It wasn't a lot of people that were being super successful doing legal things. So it wasn't a lot of examples of people, being successful without going to street pharmaceuticals, right? Not until I got to college where I was kind of able to see like the upper middle class or middle class and see another path to provide a life for myself.
Yeah.
And so I just really wanted to give you this platform to kind of hopefully inspire the next generation to be like, you can do this.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else? I think your camera is right here. Is there anything else you want to say to the younger generation, or just anybody in general? Like, is there a message you want to give to the youth?
Yeah. As far as my message to the youth, it would be, look, there will be challenges in your life. There will be times where you think you can't do something. And there will even be people that tell you can't do it either. I was one of those people that thought that I wouldn't be able to do something. When I won my first election, there were people saying it was literally a miracle that I won this. 5 years later, I'm the mayor of Moorestown. I'm the youngest actively serving mayor in the state of New Jersey. And I believe that anything is possible in this world when you keep the faith, believe in yourself, but actually organize a plan to manifest what you want to happen. So never forget to mobilize, strategize, and organize, but never forget to don't lose hope in who you are, what you bring to the table, because everybody in this world brings something to the table. It's about just tapping in to that passion, to those values that will make you the truly exceptional human being you are. So if you haven't heard it from anybody else, hear it from me. You are special. You deserve to be here. And don't give up on your dreams, because your dreams are waiting for you. And if I didn't have folks in my life that told me to go and chase that, I wouldn't be here in front of you today. So I'm blessed to be in this position, but I know that I won't be in this position for a long time. So I'm just trying to make sure that I leave my mark, and hopefully there's someone out there listening that can come in after and continue the good work.
Yeah, hopefully the next future mayor of Moorestown's watching right now.
I hope they are.
Inspired them. It's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. I feel energized just speaking with you.
Thank you.
I don't know, Nate and I, do you have anything you want to ask them? Any thoughts? No?
Covered a lot.
Yeah, we
I
did.
talked a lot. Sorry.
No, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think that's covered pretty much everything. I don't know if you had any questions for me or anything else you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, you know what, you have such a great story, and you're investing into children to try to get them to experience an experience that, I mean, I've never been a part of a rowing team.
Right.
So I guess my question for you would be like, understanding what you've done now, and now you're building a platform to help others get their message out. What's like the 5-year plan for you? Like, what's next for you?
That's a great question. Really to expand my reach, expand my growth, create a network of people like yourself that we can. I'm really big on building. I like building things, creating things, and so I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I just know I want to create a network of people that are like-minded, that have the same passions, same goals, and just create an opportunity for a younger generation, so that they can see that there's a world outside of their neighborhood.
Absolutely.
I worked in inner city Philly, and there's so much talent there. I'm from there, and just being able to give them opportunities. I have like mentors that I work with. I have internship as well that I work with as well. So I'm really big about providing opportunities, whether that's in real estate, whether that's in nonprofit leadership, whatever that is. I just want them to show them that there's people that care about you. There's a pathway to like live your dream, and there's a way to make it happen. And like yourself, I didn't envision myself being here 5 years ago, maybe not even 2 years ago. But you just follow your talents, and you follow your heart, and it leads you to where you belong.
Yeah.
So
and that's why I say, like, try to keep the faith, because I'm not the most religious person. I don't go to church every Sunday. I definitely do believe in God, but I try not to push that on anybody else. I try to just say, like, have faith. Like, there's so many. It breaks my heart when you run into somebody that has just like lost faith. Like they're hopeless. Like they're like, everything's screwed. What's the point of even caring? It really makes me feel like there's so much more work to be done. But I think that your story really exemplifies the importance of like having faith that you're moving in the direction. And one of my buddies, I was on a panel with, his name's Eli Kane. He was a basketball phenom in South Jersey, and now he's playing in the G League. He says, like, slow motion is better than no motion.
Wow.
And a lot of people get caught up in that slow motion. Just because things are slow right now, that means I should quit.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you're moving in the right direction.
Yep.
It's not about the speed, it's the direction. And then you never know what things will pop up in your life. And it's that faith, that hope that keeps you alive. And that's what, as human beings, we need community, we need hope, we need the faith that things are going to be better. And for me, I see that in you. You are someone that's instilling hope and faith into your community. So I give you the total props for that, and I appreciate being invited onto this, because any opportunity that I get the chance to talk about the work that I do, but also hopefully inspire somebody else not to give in to all the evils and the bad. And there's people in this world that want us to give up.
Yep. Because
the moment we give up is the moment we lose everything.
Yep.
But we're resilient people, so we got to keep fighting. And that's what I'm going to do in this role, is keep echoing that message.
I agree. I could talk all day, but that's pretty much all I have, man.
Awesome.
We'd like to continue to keep connecting, whatever that looks like. But
Awesome.
thank you so much for being here, man.
No problem.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, brother.
Awesome.